sinful reactions of the people of this age. So get me out of here. This was her request. Krishna, he then said, don't worry, Ganga Devi. I will spread Krishna consciousness in the subcontinent of India, and my Senopati Commander-in-Chief, he will spread Krishna consciousness in the Western world. He mentioned that there will be Krishna consciousness for 10,000 years, and there would only be one Varna, Hare Bhakta. Everyone would be a Hare Bhakta. That would be the Varna. He said that the devotees will come to Sri Dham Mayapur every year and bathe in your waters, and that way will reduce the impurities within your waters of all the sinful people that are indicating that the Sankirtan devotees would purify her waters. Not that we as individuals stand on the banks of Ganga Devi and say, are you ready, Ganga Devi? I'm coming to purify you. Not like that. Because I asked Jayapataka Maharaj this question some years ago, because he quoted this verse very often from the Brahma Vivarta Purana. He said, no, not individually, but collectively, the Sankirtan devotees they're very dear to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and therefore they're becoming purified as they're assisting Lord Chaitanya in his Sankirtan movement. So with the combination of devotees coming from all over the world, all the preachers, and even some pure devotees, of course. It's not that our movement doesn't have pure devotees, and pure devotees also purify the waters of the Ganges. Prabhupada told us this in 1977 at the Kumbh Mela. And in 1977, Prabhupada was there at the Kumbh Mela. I was also there. I had the good fortune of being there. And I think some devotee asked Prabhupada, are you going to come to bathe with us? Because we didn't know that it was actually not necessary for Prabhupada to come and bathe at the auspicious hour, because he was already, 10% pure. And he said, no, just bring some water and I will put on my head, just to, as a sign of respect. But he said at that time, the pure devotees purify the waters, not that the waters purify the pure devotee. So, anyway, Krishna then said, he said, 10,000 years there would be Krishna consciousness, and then after that period, the full force of Kali Yuga will inundate the world. And at that time, your waters should move underground until the next Satya Yuga. Mother Saraswati, she is already her waters are moving underground. She only appears in a few places. Before Advaita Acharya appeared, his mother's name is Loba Devi. She had a dream. She dreamt that Lord Shiva became very concerned about the age of Kali and the people of that age. And he wanted to help in some way, so he sat in meditation for 700 years. I think it was celestial years. And then Mahavishnu appeared before him and said, yes, what is it you want? And Lord Shiva said, unless you empower me to help the people of this age, the Kali Yuga, then they will all suffer tremendously. So with that, Lord Vishnu, Mahavishnu came and embraced Lord Shiva, and the combination of their embracing each other, they became one. And Sri Advaita Acharya, he made his appearance in that combined form of Shiva and Mahavishnu. She continued her dream and she saw Yamaraj approaching Mahavishnu and saying, look, if you descend in this form and deliver all the conditioned souls, then what will I do? I will be out of a job. And Mahavishnu said, it's okay. There will always be the few who will not take shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet. Although his mercy is for everyone, still there will be certain individuals. And he mentioned, the atheists, the offenders, the mental speculators. They had a whole list of those who will insist not to take shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. So anyway, I have been fortunate to see 50 years of Iskcon's preaching. And I remember back in 1973, this was when Prabhupada asked his disciples, please some of you come to India because we need help in India. You know the story how Prabhupada tried to preach in India before coming to the West, but no one would listen to him. But when he went to the West and immediately made an impact with the Western boys and girls, he then came back to India with some of them, and as soon as the Indian people saw these white Vaishnavas, then they wanted to listen to Prabhupada. This is Lord Chaitanya's inconceivable mercy. How he's going to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. It's inconceivable. As Prabhupada was saying, God is great, but how great we cannot really even understand. It's inconceivable how great. Mahaprabhu is going to do something great too. but not that he hasn't already done something great. Like I said, I've seen 50 years, and what I see is something great, something so wonderful. I am sometimes perplexed and amazed. That whole Leela of Prabhupada starting the movement was inconceivably great. No one can argue that fact. So I was in Mayapur in 1973. This was the second Mayapur festival. I think the first Mayapur festival, there were about 20 devotees. In this 1973 Mayapur festival, there were something like 150 devotees. And Prabhupada was on the morning walk, and suddenly he stopped. And he looked at us, and he said, "This is my international headquarters." Well, there was only one building. It was the Lotus building. It had just been completed. Everything else was just rice, paddy fields, rice fields. The thing that came to my mind immediately was something wrong with Prabhupada this morning. Maybe he has a fever and he's not talking properly or whatever. Again, it was just, how can this be the international headquarters of Iskcon? Our understanding, Los Angeles was the international headquarters because we took all our inspiration from there. And here's Prabhupada in the middle of the paddy fields saying to us, "This is my international headquarters." But he had that vision. He could see the potential of Mayapur Dham and how the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from Mayapur Dham will spread all over the world. And who can doubt today? Who can not agree with this fact that Sri Dham Mayapur is our international headquarters? So this is inconceivable. Inconceivable what's happened there in the last 50 years, and how in 2 years' time we will open that temple which Bhaktivedanta Thakur himself envisioned would appear. It was his prediction that it would appear, and now it has manifested by his and all the other acharyas' will. It is now manifested and will open in 2 years' time. And the opulence is just astounding. You know, the world is so captivated by, might is right. The biggest is the best. Yeah? Okay, if that's what you want, then you got it. Here it is. Might is right, the biggest is the best. Go down to Sri Dham Mayapur and you'll see. One time Prabhupada was at Los Angeles airport and he had just arrived from somewhere and there was some photographers interviewing him. And one photographer thought that he would be very clever. And he asked Prabhupada a very condescending question. Why do you have a Cadillac waiting to take you to the temple? Because in those days a Cadillac car was the best car at the time. And Prabhupada's reply was very, very like a slap across the face. You know, his reporter is trying to throw water over Prabhupada. Prabhupada collected the water and threw it right back. He said, yes. Actually, Krishna deserves better. But because that's all you have to offer, therefore I will use that in his service. In other words, from his point of view, what's a Cadillac car? It's nothing. You know, his vision was to take over the whole world. He wants every palace, all opulence that exists, to be used in Krishna's service. And so that was his vision. What is a Cadillac car? But because this is all you have, then I will use it. But for a pure devotee, he should be taken from the airport to the temple in a swan carrier. That's opulence. That's the opulence of the heavenly planets. They have so much better cars up there than us. We're so proud of our beep beep car. But what is it? It's nothing. So more and more we will see within our society not just Krishna consciousness spreading, but all opulence that exists will be offered at the lotus feet of the Lord and used in his service. So just like here in Delhi, you have such a nice opulent temple. I was mentioning how Prabhupada wanted us to come to India, so I came in 1973. I was in Mayapur festival, and my idea was to stay there and help out at the Mayapur center. So during the festival, the sannyasis and the GBCs, they were occupying the rooms of the Lotus building, and all the other devotees were around the vianda in their sleeping bags, sleeping at night. But you know, I'm from England. I've never even seen a mosquito before. And suddenly I'm inundated by mosquitoes. And I didn't realize that when you scratch a mosquito bite, that's not a good idea. So within weeks of being there, my feet became twice the size as normal. I went to the hospital. They gave me an injection. I nearly fainted because the needle was so blunt. Anyway, my condition got worse and worse, and then Bhavananda, who was the temple president at the time, he called me to his room. He said, "You better go to Calcutta because we don't want any dead bodies around here." So I went to Calcutta to recuperate. And after some weeks I got better, and I decided to come to Delhi. Before going to Delhi, I stopped at Vrindavan. When I arrived, it was noontime, and I couldn't see anyone. It was in the middle of summer. Well, where is everyone? I didn't know. It was only mad dogs and Englishmen that were out in the midday sun, and I was one of the mad dogs because I'm from England. Then I came to Delhi and I asked Tejas, "Please give me some service." So he gave me some service. And then the summer was getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And it was unbelievable to me. What is this heat? My bodily temperature is already hot. I can take cold weather, but hot weather for me is not a good idea. So at one point I asked Tejas, please give me a return ticket back to the West. I need to go to the West. You have to understand, in those days when we came to India, we came on a single ticket. There was no return ticket. There was a single ticket. So if you needed to go back, you would have to ask a temple president in India, please give me some money to come back. And Tejas said, who's going to do your service? And how can you leave without finding someone to do your service? So he wasn't really in the mood of letting me go. I tolerated for another 2 weeks, and then I negotiated with the head Bajari. I said, you're going to have to help me escape from the temple. So one night we tied some sheets together, and he lowered me down from the balcony. Tejas was on the ground floor, didn't want to go out that way in case so I had to go down the balcony. My idea was to then go overland back to London. My first stop was train to Amritsar. In Amritsar, I was taking prasadam there for 5 days. Then I had to go through Pakistan. In Pakistan, there's nothing to eat. I was living on Coca-Cola and biscuits. In Afghanistan, a little bit better. Iran, you could get cheese, bread, and olives. By the time I got to Istanbul, I had hepatitis. And I had to stay in quarantine for 2 weeks. The doctor came after 2 weeks. He diagnosed me. He said, you'll have to stay another 2 weeks. And I was thinking, no way I'm going to stay here for another 2 weeks. So that night I had to escape from the hospital. I went under the reception desk and ran out of the hospital. Then I called my father. I said, send some money. I need to get back to London. So he collects some money. And when I arrived in London, no one could recognize me. I was like someone that's just come from a labor camp. But these were the austerities in those days. But you know, those same austerities, we didn't even see them as austerities. We saw them as a natural function of our Krishna consciousness. Whatever difficulties we go through, we're doing it for the pleasure of Krishna. So there's no question of, complaining and wondering, why am I suffering so much? Prabhupada told us that we must accept inconveniences. We should voluntarily accept inconveniences for the pleasure of Krishna. And that will give you the highest pleasure yourself. So our suffering is blissful suffering because it's in Krishna's service. So this is just one example of what it used to be like in those days. We didn't really have any temples. They were just laying the foundation of the Krishna Balaram Mandir. Guru Das was there. Foundation, that's all we had. And In Bombay also, we had just a shack as the temple. But in all these places today, we have so much opulence. This temple, the Bombay temple, Mayapur, where you yourselves can come and absorb yourself in the activities of Krishna consciousness. We didn't have books, we didn't have temples, we didn't have big festivals, we didn't have seminars. I could go on and on what we didn't have. Of course, what we did have was Prabhupada. And he kept us going. But there's no reason today to complain. Lord Chaitanya is making all arrangements for his devotees in order to assist him in spreading this worldwide Sankirtan movement. I'll just finish off with one quote. This is the quote from the British. They had one quote. The sun does not set on the British Empire. The empire was so big that any given time during the day, the sun would be shining somewhere in the empire. It was so big. Of course, now it doesn't even rise in the empire. Hey, that was a joke. Ha ha ha. In England, mostly it's like this weather, right? Dark and rainy. But that was the saying, the sun never set on the British Empire. Then when India became independent, Prabhupada said that. He said when India became independent, the empire collapsed. Why? Because the British were using the money, the opulence of India and the soldiers of India to conquer the world. As soon as India became independent, the whole empire collapsed. And it's been reducing ever since. Now you just got UK. It's not even Great Britain anymore. It's just Britain. UK. It's okay, but nothing special. So, what was I saying? Sun, yeah, the sun doesn't set on the British Empire. Well, we have a new saying. The sun doesn't set on the Iskcon Empire. Why? Because somewhere in the world where there's chanting and dancing and pravachan, Krishna Katha, somewhere in the world, at any given moment, there's these things going on. Once I was invited to Siberia, and I was thinking, do I want to go to Siberia? Because from the Western point of view, Siberia is not a very funny place. It's not a very good place. It's cold, it's dark. In the winter time, the sun only rises, doesn't even rise. It's just below the horizon and is light for 2 days, 2 hours in a day. It's where they used to send the political prisoners. So it doesn't have a very good name for itself. But I couldn't take down the offer. I went anyway, and I was pleasantly surprised when I arrived at Iskcon airport. It's in the middle of Siberia. And I was greeted by 200 devotees at the airport having kirtan. And I was thinking, wow, even in Siberia, I'm home. So there isn't a place in the world which is not going to be inundated with Krishna consciousness. It's a very powerful movement, and we have very powerful ammunition. The holy name itself is very powerful. It has all the leelas within that mantra. All of Krishna's leelas are within the mantra. That's why it's so special. If you chant Narayan, 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 it's the name of the Lord, but it's a secondary name. It's not a primary name. Krishna Leela names, they are primary names, and we chant those names, and we get so much benefit. 1,000 names of Vishnu equals one Krishna. How long does it take to chant 1,000 names of Vishnu? 40 minutes, at least. You could have just said Krishna, and it's the same. So these are, Prabhupada said, if you chant your 16 rounds, if you chant your 16 rounds by 10 o'clock in the morning, you'll have no anxiety throughout the day. And he said 90% of our spiritual advancement is through our 16 rounds. He said also that, he said, if it wasn't for the holy name, you boys and girls could not do anything. So just see how powerful that Maha Mantra is. So this is one of our weapons against Maya. We have our books, they're like time bombs. Prabhupada said, if the leaders of the world only knew the contents of my books, they would never have allowed us to distribute them. But now it's too late. The books are already out there. Why? Because within those books is the absolute truth. We have been told by everyone else so many lies. Prabhupada was the first person to come and tell us the truth. Otherwise, it's just lies after lies after lies after lies. And what about putting some more lies into the society? So we want to overshadow the lies with the absolute truth. And this is why we go on Sankirtan and distribute books, go on Harinam, distribute the holy name. We have so many weapons. Prasadam is also, Prabhupada used to give the young devotees in the early days, whenever he saw someone becoming a little disheartened, he would give him a gulab jam. Take this. He would call them the Iskcon bullet. This will help you. Here. So in this way, we have everything at our disposal. The only thing missing is our own enthusiasm, our own will to assist Lord Chaitanya in the Sankirtan movement. I will not see the next 50 days, 50 years of Iskcon, but you will. And you'll be sitting here saying, I remember in 2020, and you'll be telling your story. And it will be as wonderful as my story today. In fact, it will be even more wonderful because the nature, as this saying, what's that saying? If you have a snowball rolling down the hill, the more snow it gathers, the more snow the bigger it becomes. Anyway, I've seen 50 years, but the next 50 years, it will be twice, 3 times, 4 times, maybe 5 times greater. We started with like a little mustard seed size. Now you have a big ball size. We're not happy until we got the whole universe. We want that big ball to be Krishna conscious. But my guess is the next 50 years, the expansion will be greater than the first 50 years. And please, try to don't become disheartened. The next time you become disheartened, remember this class. Remember what Dheershant Das Goswami had to endure in 1973 when he was a young devotee. So don't jump off the boat. It's Lord Chaitanya's boat we're on. That boat is crossing the ocean of material saga. It's a vast ocean. It's not possible to cross it in any other way. There's no other way, no other way. No other shelter than Lord Chaitanya and the holy name. Stay on the boat, do some service, chant your 16 rounds, and be happy. I want you to do one thing as I close. Put your hands up like this. This is an expression of freedom. We are free. Look at all of you smiling. You go outside, and I go to these plane journeys. People like, you're on a plane, you know. You're going to another country. Smile. Yeah, it's another day. Another day, another dollar, another day, another ruby. What do we have? Another day of Krishna consciousness. Be happy. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.